I had worked for Mr. Adrian for over a year, and in all that time, I had never seen him outside of work. He was a man of mystery, always focused, always in control. I was his personal assistant, and he was a demanding boss, but there was something about him, his charisma, his sharp mind, that made me respect him deeply. I admired him, but I never allowed myself to think of him in any other way. After all, he was my boss, and I was here to do a job. But one evening, everything changed. It was a Thursday, and I had just finished organizing some files when Adrian's voice cut through the quiet hum of the office. "Clara, would you join me for dinner tonight?" His usual calm tone carried an edge of something different, something more personal. I was taken aback. A dinner invitation from my boss. It was unexpected. He had always been so professional, always keeping work and personal life separate. But I quickly composed myself, trying not to sound too eager. "I'd be honored, Mr. Cole," I said, offering a polite smile. "Good. I'll pick you up at 7. Don't dress too formally. It's just a casual dinner," he added, before leaving the room. At 7 on the dot, a black limousine pulled up in front of my apartment. Adrian was already inside, waiting for me. He looked effortlessly handsome, his sharp suit fitting him perfectly, his dark eyes gleaming under the dim lights. He smiled when I entered the car. "You look lovely, Clara," he said. I thanked him, settling into the seat next to him. The ride was quiet at first, with only the soft hum of the car's engine filling the space between us. I could feel the tension, the unspoken questions hanging in the air. As we arrived at a secluded restaurant, away from the prying eyes of the city, Adrian led me inside. The ambience was dim, with candles flickering on each table. We were seated at a private table in the corner. I could tell this was no ordinary dinner. The air felt heavy with anticipation. We ordered wine and appetizers, but Adrian remained unusually quiet. His eyes were focused on me, studying me in a way that made me feel both flattered and uneasy at the same time. The tension in the room was palpable. I couldn't understand why he had invited me out tonight. And then, when the main course arrived, Adrian finally spoke. "I've been wanting to talk to you about something important," he said, his voice low and steady. "Something that's been on my mind for a while." I looked at him, unsure of what to expect. "Of course, Mr. Cole. What is it?" He sighed, looking down at his plate for a moment, as though gathering the courage to say whatever it was that was weighing on him. "Clara, this is difficult for me to say, but I need to be honest with you." His tone was serious now, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. My heart rate quickened. "I've always admired you," he continued. "Not just for your professionalism, but for who you are as a person. Your kindness, your intelligence, your work ethic. You're someone who makes a difference, Clara. I can't tell you how much that has meant to me." I wasn't sure where this was going, but I could sense there was more. "My wife and we've been through a lot in the past few years," Adrian said, his voice tight. "She's a wonderful woman, and I love her deeply. But there's something we've been struggling with. She can't have children. The doctors have said it's medically impossible for her to carry a child." I stared at him, unsure of what to say. I could see the pain in his eyes. "I understand this may be difficult to hear, but I don't know who else to turn to. Clara, I need your help." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "I want you to carry my child." The words hung in the air like a bombshell. I froze, my mind struggling to process what he had just said. "You want me, to what?" I finally managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. "I know this is a lot to ask," he said, his voice softening, "but I've been thinking about this for a long time. My wife and I have tried every option available, but none of them have worked. I can't bear to see her so heartbroken. And after getting to know you, I believe you're the right person for this. You have everything we need, Clara. You're strong, you're capable, and I trust you." I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know how to respond. This wasn't something I had ever imagined in my wildest dreams. I had always admired Adrian from afar, but this was something entirely different. I'm not sure what to say," I stammered. This is a huge decision, Mr. Cole. I don't even know where to begin. It's It's not something I've ever thought about. He nodded, understanding my hesitation. I know it's a lot to ask. I don't expect you to make a decision right now. But I wanted you to know that this is something I'm serious about. If you agree, there's no pressure. But I want you to know that I will be there for you, and I'll make sure you're well taken care of. You won't have to worry about anything. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. I couldn't believe this was happening. Adrian was offering me something I never thought would come my way, something that was so far beyond the realm of my reality. I could feel his gaze on me, waiting for me to say something. But my mind was spinning, trying to make sense of everything. How could I possibly agree to this? Was this even something I wanted? Adrian, I finally said, my voice trembling, I don't know if I can do this. It's a lot. It's not just about carrying a child, it's about everything that comes with it. The responsibility, the emotions. I don't know if I can take that on. He reached across the table and placed a hand on mine, his touch surprisingly gentle. I understand. I don't want you to feel pressured. I just wanted you to know that I care for you, Clara. Not just as my assistant, but as someone I trust deeply. I wouldn't ask this of you if I didn't feel you were the right person. His words struck me deeply. For the first time, I realized that Adrian's feelings for me went beyond just admiration. He cared for me, in a way I hadn't fully understood until now. But was that enough? Was I ready to take this step? To do something so life-altering? I need time to think, I said softly, my eyes meeting his. This is too much for me to process right now. Adrian nodded, understanding. Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll respect your decision, whatever it may be. The rest of the dinner was very quiet. The weight of Adrian's confession still hung in the air like a thick fog. I couldn't stop thinking about what he had said, and I could tell he was lost in his own thoughts too. Neither of us said much as we finished our food, both of us sitting there, staring into our plates, not really hungry anymore. It felt like the world had slowed down, like time was moving differently now. I could hear my heart beating loudly in my chest as I tried to make sense of everything. What had just happened? Adrian, the man I had worked for, the man I respected, had just asked me to do something huge, something that would change my life forever. How could I even think about something like this? But at the same time, I couldn't ignore the kindness in his eyes, the way he had trusted me with such an important request. After a long silence, we stood up from the table. Adrian didn't say much as we walked out of the restaurant. The night air was cool, and the city lights twinkled in the distance. I followed him to the limousine, my mind racing. When I got inside the car, I sat back, staring out the window, trying to breathe deeply. But nothing seemed to calm my thoughts. My life was about to change in ways I couldn't fully understand yet. The reality of what Adrian had asked me to do was still sinking in. Would I be able to do it? Was it even the right thing to do? The more I thought about it, the more I felt a mix of fear and confusion. I had never been in a situation like this before. Adrian sat beside me in the car, but neither of us spoke for a while. The silence felt heavy, like we were both waiting for something, though neither of us knew exactly what. I could tell Adrian was giving me space, letting me process everything. It was a lot for me to take in. As the car moved through the city, I looked at the lights flashing outside. I needed to make a decision, but how could I know what was the right thing to do? I couldn't just ignore what he had said. It was too big, too important. But I also didn't want to make a mistake that would change everything forever. I spent the whole ride in deep thought, weighing my options, thinking about Adrian's request. I knew that if I said yes, my life would never be the same. My relationship with him would never be the same. But if I said no, would I regret it? When we reached my apartment, the car came to a stop. Adrian turned to me, his expression serious but gentle. He could tell I was deep in thought. Clara, I don't expect you to answer me right away. Take your time. But please know that whatever you decide, I will respect it. I nodded, giving him a small smile, though my heart was still racing. Thank you, Adrian. I need to think about it. He didn't say anything else. He just nodded and stepped out of the car, holding the door open for me. As I stepped out into the cool night air, I couldn't help but feel like I was standing at the edge of something big, something that could change everything. That night, I went to bed with a mind full of questions. But after lying there in the dark for what felt like hours, I finally made up my mind. The decision wasn't easy, but I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I called Adrian and told him I was ready to meet him. I had thought long and hard, and I was ready to make my choice. I walked into his office with a sense of calm that surprised me. When I saw him, I knew that what I was about to say would change our lives forever. "I've thought about what you asked me," I began, my voice steady. "And I'm ready to help. I'll do it." Adrian looked at me, his eyes searching mine, making sure he heard me right. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. "I'm sure," I said. And with those two words, everything began to shift. A few days later, we arranged to meet at a hotel. The tension in the air was thick with unspoken words and unacknowledged feelings. It wasn't just about the agreement anymore, it was about what we were doing, what we had chosen to do together. As I walked into the hotel room, my heart raced, and my mind was filled with a mix of anticipation and fear. This wasn't something I had planned for or even thought would happen, but now, here I was. Adrian was already there, waiting for me. He looked calm on the outside, but I could see the slight nervousness in his eyes, the same way I was feeling. We exchanged small talk, trying to ignore the heaviness of the situation, but I could feel the weight of it all. I wasn't sure what to expect, but as the evening unfolded, it became clear that things were moving faster than I thought. One moment, I was simply trying to understand everything, to process it all, and the next, things became more intimate, more real. The connection we shared in that moment was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It felt strange, yet comforting, as if it was the only way forward, as if this was something meant to happen between us, despite all the confusion. Days passed, and life went on, but something in me was changing. I began to notice the small signs, a missed period, a sudden shift in how I felt. I brushed it off at first, telling myself it was just stress or something else, but deep down, I knew. It wasn't until a visit to the doctor that my worst fear, and yet, my biggest reality, was confirmed. I was pregnant. My body, which had always felt so in control, now seemed to be telling a different story, one that would forever tie me to Adrian in ways I never imagined. At first, I was in shock. How could this have happened so quickly? Was I ready for this? I couldn't deny the fear and uncertainty that crept in. But as the days went by, the reality of it settled in, and I found myself coming to terms with it. I was carrying Adrian's child. For the first time in my life, I felt both incredibly scared and strangely powerful. What was the next step? How would this change my life? How would it change Adrian's life? The truth was, I didn't have all the answers. But I knew one thing for sure, nothing. I never expected the turn my life would take, especially after Adrian and I agreed to this life-changing arrangement. Everything seemed to happen so fast. Just when I thought I was getting used to balancing my new reality, Adrian surprised me with another unexpected decision. One afternoon, he called me into his office. His expression was calm but serious, and I could tell he had something important to say. I sat down, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. Then he said it. "Clara, I've been thinking about this for a while," he began, his tone steady. "I want you to stop coming to work. I don't want you to stress yourself. You've done so much already, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. I'll still pay your salary, but I'll find someone else to take over your role here." I stared at him, my mind racing. "Stop coming to work," I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. "Yes. You're carrying my child, Clara. That's all I need you to focus on right now. I'll take care of everything else." I didn't know what to say. On one hand, I felt relieved that he wanted me to focus on myself and the baby. On the other hand, I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. My job had been such a big part of my life. But Adrian was firm in his decision, and in the weeks that followed, I stopped going to the office. To my surprise, my salary kept coming, month after month, just as he had promised. It felt strange at first, not having to work but still being financially secure. Adrian made sure I had everything I needed, and more. He checked in on me regularly, And as my pregnancy progressed, he was always there to reassure me. When I finally gave birth, it was the most overwhelming and beautiful moment of my life. I looked at the tiny life I had brought into the world, and for the first time, I felt a sense of purpose that went beyond anything I had ever imagined. Adrian was overjoyed. He visited often, bringing gifts and making promises that felt almost too generous to believe. "Clara," he said one day, as he held our baby in his arms, "I want you to know that I'll take care of you and this child for as long as I live. Even if you never work again, you'll always have everything you need. That's my promise to you." True to his word, Adrian continued to support me. The years stretched out ahead of us, and I felt secure knowing he had my back. But just when I thought I had seen it all, Adrian surprised me again. One evening, he invited me to dinner at a private venue. It had been a while since we'd spent time together like this, and I wondered what he had on his mind. As we ate, he looked at me with a tenderness I hadn't seen before. "Clara," he said, taking a deep breath, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've been through. You've given me something I thought I'd never have, a child. You've become such an important part of my life. I don't want you to just be someone in the background anymore." I blinked, unsure of where he was going with this. "I want you to be my wife," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "Not just the mother of my child, but my second wife. I've spoken to my first wife about this, and we've come to an agreement. She understands, and she's okay with it." I was stunned. Marriage? It was something I had never imagined with Adrian. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw the depth of his feelings and the seriousness of his words. "Adrian," I whispered, "are you sure about this?" He nodded. "I've never been more sure about anything in my life." We talked for hours that night, going over what this would mean for both of us. By the end of the evening, we had come to an agreement. I would be his second wife, and together, we would raise our child in a way that worked for everyone involved. It wasn't the life I had planned for myself, but it was a life that felt right. And as we walked out into the cool night air, I felt a sense of peace and certainty that I hadn't felt in a long time. Adrian had changed my life in ways I could never have imagined, and now, we were stepping into a new chapter together.